And they sat on a golden table in 6 rows. Good morning, Rivka. 6 rows, so it's 12. 2 rows of 6. Supported a whole elaborate design of gold. It wasn't a design, it was thin pipes, thin golden pipes, half pipes for lightweight, but strong enough to support all this load. Okay, so he should remember these offerings that we brought. We couldn't afford better, so we brought enough flour, a lot of flour. There was a lot of flour to make all that. For a meal offering is called a meal. Meal means grain, right? Not like lunch, unless you're an angel. Yeah. An oila is a burnt offering, completely burnt on the fire which was burning on top of this huge structure called an altar. It was very big. It was like a 20 yards long. Think of a football field, 10 yards to a first down, 20 yards by 20 yards. It was big, huge. With a ramp leading up to it, the lamp was 32 or 60 feet long. So an animal, a goat, a sheep, when we brought our Paschal offering, was a lamb. What would happen to that lamb? Well, the good parts would be burned on the altar, and the meat would come back to the people who brought it, the owners, and we would eat it at the Seder service. Barbecue. Had to be roasted on fire. The Paschal lamb could not be stewed in a pot. Had to be roasted on a fire. Why? That's what the Torah says we have to do. So we ask Hashem to remember all these offerings. You know, we stood in line, we brought the lamb, we stood in line. We didn't bring a line from home, so we bought one from the store, from the Beis HaMikdash store. In the canteen in the Beis HaMikdash, we bought a lamb. We came, we gave it to the Kohen, and the Kohen prepared it for the altar and took it up onto the altar for us in our name. So let us rejoice, Hashem, in your salvation. Ub'Shem Eloheinu, and in the name of our God, Nidgel, let us raise our banner high. Yimole Adonai Kol Mishalesecha. In return for this, Hashem should fulfill all your requests. Ata Yodait was our request, that we should no longer be bothered by enemies who come to attack us and kill us and murder us, and whole war going on. Now, you know, Hashem. Now I know, says King David, Ki Haishia Adonai Mashiach, that Hashem saves his anointed one, his Mashiach. Ya'anehu answers him Mishmei Kodshe, from his holy heavens. B'guvures Yesha Yamine, and with his strength in his right hand, strength in his left hand, both of them in his right hand, he sends salvation. Right hand is the hand of salvation. Right is the side of kindness, and mercy, and left is the side of strength and might. So it says, the person has a bad characteristic, push it away. Push away the bad thing with the left, but draw him near with the right. So somebody comes into the dorm or comes into Chabad house, obviously unaware of the protocol. Don't scream at them. Gently push, but with strength to draw them near. I remember once was a girl came into my class, came into the class, dressed like she didn't know there was anything wrong with it, but she was a very pretty girl. But she was very, very immodest. Nobody said a word. Everybody was just very friendly. And within a few days, she was dressing very differently. She just looked around. She saw that nobody was dressed like she was dressed. So left hand pushes away because we're not going to encourage a person to do something that's not right, but we're going to definitely encourage them to do what is right. And this is the philosophy of Chabad, that we don't have to be harsh with a person who doesn't know better, but on the contrary, just by strengthening the good qualities, the bad things just fall off by themselves. Like a scab after a wound is healed, just falls off by itself. Now I know, says King David, Ki Heishia Adonai Mashiach, Hashem saves his anointed one. Yanehu Mishmei Kodshe, he answers him from his holy heavens. The Gevuris Yesha Yamine, with the might of his right hand, which is the hand of salvation. Ele Verechem, other people come with their chariots, with their tanks, with their armored vehicles. Ele Vesusim, and they come with their cavalry, the horses. We come with the name of God on our lips. Hema Karuv and Afalu, they fell, they didn't get up. V'anachnu kamnu, and they say that we have been oppressed, we stood up, we're still standing, all the others have faded away, and we will go on. Adonai Yishem Melech Hanenu V'im Kareinu, Hashem is our God, he should save us, he's our King. Yanenu V'im Kareinu, on the day that we call unto him. Okay, so what we got here, we have here Hannah. Hello, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
I hope Yom Kippur was inspiring. It's the most beautiful davening ever.
How was your fast, Rabbi Pape?
How was it?
Yes.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. I'll tell you the truth. At night, I had a very hard time.
Yeah.
A very hard time. I don't know why. All of a sudden at night, my mouth went dry and I couldn't swallow. I was dying for a cup of coffee or tea or just a little water, a few drops. But no, we weren't allowed. And I have a sore foot. And because of all the running around, it has to be quiet, like that. It's if I sit quietly, it's calm. But there's so much running around to do Erev Yontif that it couldn't calm down. So the whole davening was very, very painful the whole time. Very, very painful. And I was exhausted because of being up very late the night before with Kaparas, and then running around doing all the things that we have to do, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I have to go to the mikveh 3 times and eat 3 big meals. I usually don't have big meals, so the whole system was out of kilter. The next day, I got up early. I went to shul early. I had no trouble getting through the crowd. Got to my place. I have a place in 770 for many, many years. I was very fortunate. When I first came here, this was, it sounds like eternity. It feels to me like it was yesterday. You girls weren't born 50 years ago. I first showed up in 770. I was a young man in my 20s. And the pushing was too much for me. After a couple of years of trying to, I couldn't compete with the Bochum. They have a mafia, they're all in the same, according to their classes, they all know each other. And you can't, if you're not one of them, you can't survive. So I was getting, the first morning, Rosh Hashanah, I saw the Rebbe blew shofar. I wanted to be close. So I said, okay, I'll get here early. I came 8 o'clock in the morning. I was already there. I had a spot right by the bima, and I was ready. I was gonna be here to hear the shofar. And after about half an hour, I stood there saying Tehillim. And after about half an hour, somebody came along and he said, "Oh, good Yontiv. I stand here all the time." So he just sort of moved it in front of me. So okay, so I was in the second place. That's okay. I didn't mind. Then shortly after that, another 15 minutes or so, a friend of his came in and he let him in. So he tried to get in. I stood strong. No, you're not going to let you in. I'm here. I've been here for 3/4 of an hour now. So I didn't have to fight with him. His friend let him in front of him. So now I was in the third place. Then came a fourth, then came a fifth, then came a sixth. They were all friends. I ended up by the Aaron Kodesh on the other side of the shul. And then with the davening, there was a lot of pushing and moving, and they call it the washing machine. If you saw it from the Bible show. So I was in the washing machine. After 2 years, I said, I can't do this anymore. And by now, I was married, and I can't do this anymore. I have to daven on Yom Kippur. So I asked for a seat. So they gave me a seat under the Viber show, the ladies' area, in the front. It was very nice people were there. They forbade a lot. They told a lot of stories about the old days. They were very intelligent and very congenial people. Couldn't hear much. So Rabbi Goldberg from the yeshiva across the road, he would blow shofar for us because we couldn't hear the shofar blowing. After the tekiyas, like in Musaf, when they blow the shofar so many times during the tekiyah, during the davening, as you're doing the silent prayer, they blow the shofar 3 times. He would also blow it underneath with him. So every year I would ask the authorities, the Gaboyim, if I could move, they could somehow find me a place in the middle. And the answer was always, no, all the seats were taken for years and years. You can't have the seats. And then when the Rebbe started really talking a lot about Mashiach, and the community sort of divided in their opinions, whether you're allowed to talk about this in public, or whether it's just something you should know and not talk about it. There was a big division. People started to say Yechi to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe seemed to encourage it, but not everybody agreed that this is the right thing to do. So there was a split. And the people said Yechi sort of stayed downstairs, and the people didn't like saying Yechi stood upstairs, and they came to me and said, "You want a seat? You remember you were asked about that?" See, I said, "Yeah, well, you can have it now." Because the person who was sitting, one of the people sitting there, decided he didn't want to be there anymore. And I've been there since then, 30 years.
Sorry, you said saying Yichi. What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean?
What does what mean? Can't hear you.
You said like people started saying Yichi.
Yeah.
What is that?
After the Rebbe had his stroke, everybody knew, this is something everybody knew, that the Rebbe is obviously the greatest scholar, the greatest chassid, the greatest leader, the direct descendant of King David, and he's our leader, he's our Rebbe. And really, it's a point in Jewish law that a person should think that his Rebbe is going to be the Mashiach of our time. And if he doesn't think that way, then he should find out who he is. Who is going to be the Mashiach of our time? Has to be someone in every generation who's qualified to become the Mashiach. Or else how can Mashiach come if he's not here? Someone has to be someone who fulfills all the requirements. What are the requirements? Requirements are listed very clearly in Jewish law. What Mashiach has to be a person of great piety and tremendous scholarship and tremendous love of God and love of Jewish people and the devotion to serving Hashem, and who does all the mitzvahs without exception in thought, speech, he does all the mitzvahs, he teaches all the mitzvahs, he learns about the mitzvahs, he thinks about the mitzvahs. There's nothing, he doesn't, he's totally focused. A person is completely, totally focused on serving God every single second. If you don't think your Rebbe is that guy, so you better find out who is. It has to be somebody in our generation who is going to fulfill the position of King David. Because that is the Mashiach. Okay. And what does Yechi mean? Yechi means long live the king. Yechi means long live the king Mashiach. So some people were afraid this bad publicity. The people who are supporters of Chabad, we want to encourage them to be involved in Torah and Judaism. And they say, whoa, that sounds like Christianity. Well, where do you think the Christians got it from? They just put a different name on it. They took somebody who didn't follow Torah and mitzvahs and said, yeah, he's the Redeemer. You don't need Torah and mitzvahs anymore. All you got to do is believe in him. Well, that's completely contrary to everything that says in the Torah. Anybody who says that you don't have to do a mitzvah, any mitzvah, you don't have to do a mitzvah because it's not holy, it's not going to connect you to God, that's the worst terrible thing in the world. Because the mitzvah is Hashem. Hashem is in the mitzvah. The mitzvah is our connection to Hashem. It's his will, it's his wisdom. It's like a garment. You put on a garment, it's your garment. You do a mitzvah, you're taking Hashem and you're connecting to Hashem completely. It's like a dancer and a dance. We'll talk about this more in later chapters of the Tanya. You go to a ballet. You like the ballet? You ever go to the ballet? Okay. Who writes the dance? Who made up the dance? Does he make it up on the spot? No, he rehearses, he practices. Who teaches him the steps? Who teaches him the blocking? The dancer, the man, the woman. Who teaches them? The choreographer. Who creates the dance? The choreographer. The dance is the expression of the idea of the choreographer, right? So you have the dance and you have the creator of the dance. They're two different things, correct? And then you have the dancer, right? Every dancer is different. I mean, I was young, in the olden days. I saw Rudolph Nureyev dancing with Lady Jane Fontaine. She came out of retirement in order to dance with him. He was young and unbelievable dancer. You know who he was? He was the star dancer of the Russian ballet. And they allowed him to leave Russia in order to perform. And one time he could leave. He leaped over the barriers in the airport and he ran away. And he sought safe haven in Britain. He was like the greatest ballet dancer. Unbelievable. So you have the dancer, and he interprets the dance the way, according to his own sensitivity and his talents, his ability, and his feelings. So you have the dance, you have the choreographer who creates the dance. Is the choreographer the dance? No, but the dance is from the choreographer, it's connected to him. And you have the dancer. Now you go to the ballet, what are you looking at? Are you looking at the dance? Are you looking at the dancer? Are you looking at the dance itself? And the answer, you'll get all three, because they're all one, they're all the same thing. So Hashem is the choreographer, and the mitzvah is the dance, and you are the dancer. And they all become one thing with you. So comes along a person and says, no, you don't have to do that anymore. That doesn't connect you to anybody. You want to be connected to the source? Believe in me, says the Torah. That's denying God. So there were people who said, if you're going to say that, that the Mashiach is already here, just hasn't been revealed, so don't you start revealing it, because people aren't going to understand. And that's what so that made a seat available for me. So Yom Kippur by day, I came early in the morning. I went to my seat and I sat there, didn't move the whole day. He said, how could you sit there the whole day without, don't you have to go? I said, no, I was very careful. I didn't eat anything. I didn't drink anything. And I was careful to make sure that I took care of all these needs before I went to shul. And I was able to sit the whole day without having to relieve myself. And even when I went home at the end of the day, it wasn't an emergency. Okay, so that's how young. It was beautiful. The davening was gorgeous. The first time I came here, I had been davening for about 8 months since I stumbled into Chabad and working at davening. And they were my friends I made in Chabad were encouraging me that I should go to New York, should be by the Rebbe. And I heard the davening on Rosh Hashanah. It was the most beautiful davening I'd ever heard in my life. They didn't daven like that in the Reformed Temple where I grew up. This was unbelievable. I wished I could have kept up with the davening, but it was just so beautiful. I thought, that's fantastic. Then came Yom Kippur. I thought, wow, Yom Kippur, it made Rosh Hashanah look pale. It went just beyond and beyond. And then came Sukkot. That's where we're up to now. Okay, so we have here Hannah. Welcome back, Hannah. A good year to you.
Thank you.
And Andrea is here.
Yeah.
And Petra is here.
Hi.
And Rivka is here.
Yay.
Just the Rebbetzin Simcha isn't here. Okay. So much for the Farbrengen. Now let's learn some time, a few minutes. Okay, so we're still in chapter 1. Goodness gracious, still in chapter 1. So we see Rabbi is the great leader of the generation. He's so holy, he's constantly saying words of Torah, and therefore the angel of death had no power over him, had to trick him in order to take him, because his allotted time had come. He was under orders to bring him back to his master, to his maker. A person's maker, it's another way of saying God, because he makes us. Right? And then we saw that we can't say that the Beinoni is half of transgressions, because when you do any transgression, even a very slight transgression, you're called wicked. And he gives us a few examples, like a person doesn't do a transgression from the Torah, but maybe he does a transgression from the rabbinical teachings, which are like a fence around the Torah. No, he's also called wicked. Maybe he keeps all the teachings of the Torah and all the teachings of the oral Torah, but he doesn't try and encourage his neighbors to keep the teachings of the Torah. So, he's also called wicked. And sages did this, and they fasted 40 fasts till their teeth turned black. So it's impossible to say that the Beinoni is half and half times wicked and half times righteous. No, the righteous person is something, a world of his by himself, way beyond, and the wicked person is a person who makes mistakes. And the level of the mistakes can vary, tremendous number of variables, according to the degree of the mistake, the amount of time of the mistake, and the frequency of the mistake, and the seriousness of the mistake. I mean, you can't compare a person who is a thief or even a murderer or a person who steals by force, a mafia guy. You can't compare him to somebody who forgets to say a bracha achrona on his cup of coffee. They're not in the same ballpark. Okay. So then we came up to the idea of King David, who said that he had, everybody has two neshamas, which is a way of saying two, and that's from Isaiah. That was the Haftarah, in fact, on Yom Kippur. That's where that's from. We read it on Yom Kippur. Hashem says, I made neshamas, which means a neshama for all the people in the world. And the sages interpret this to mean not just for all the people in the world, but for every person has two neshamas. One is a good neshama, which wants to do godliness, and the other is a selfish neshama, or nefesh. It's a lower level of neshama, nefesh, which is like an animal that's interested in survival and pleasure. Pleasure, pain. Defines morality by pleasure and pain. If it's pleasurable, it's good. If it hurts, it's bad. That's the morality. So we have two neshamas, and King David says, not me. I only have one neshama. I killed my other neshama. I killed my selfish neshama by fasting. I didn't feed it. Such a long time. It's dead. I had a friend in school. He made up a story. He went into an antique store and he bought a feed me. The guy said, I have a very nice present here. It's called the feed me bird. I never, what does it do? He says, it sings. What's its song? Feed me, feed me, feed me. But if you feed it, it gets bigger. Feed me becomes feed me. Feed me becomes feed me already. Now feed me, feed me. So you have to starve it. So that is it's a beautiful allegory. He was not a religious boy, but he made up this story. We were in school together. We studied the literature together. And he made up this story. His name is Mort Ritz. And that is a beautiful story about how the animal soul works. The more you feed it, the stronger it gets. And the only way to get rid of it is by starving it. And that's not dieting. It means it's not giving it the food that it likes, which is selfish indulgence. We don't allow ourselves. Yeah, that's discipline, self-discipline. Okay. So King David says, I killed my animal soul, my selfish soul. Now, at the bottom of page 45, some new information, very important. We have two nefeshes. The first nefesh that comes into a person from when he is or she is born is called the nefesh habahamis, which is a selfish soul, like an animal, very similar to an animal. And where does it live? Where is it? Okay, fasten your seatbelts. You're not going to like to hear this. It's in the blood. It lives in your blood. Your blood is your vitality. It's your energy. It's your energy center. And that's where it is. It's ensconced in the energy center. The place where it's very comfortable is in the left side of your heart. Your heart pumps. Is there any place in your body that your heart does not pump to it? No. Stick a pin in anywhere. Don't do it. Don't advise you. But blood is going to come out. It's everywhere. So this is the makeup of the selfish soul. And there are four elements. Here's another piece of information. According to Kabbalah, according to the sciences of the ancient times, there are four basic elements. Everything is made up of these four elements, including you. Number one, look at what's on the table in front of you. What does everybody have on the table in front of them? Water. A person is a small world. How much of the world is water? Anybody know offhand? Rivka, I think you got it. What?
No.
75%. 75% of the world is water. So are you. Air. Everybody has to breathe. How many times a minute is normal? 12 times a minute. You have to have oxygen. If a person has some kind of an attack or something, he doesn't breathe for a certain amount of time, the oxygen doesn't get to the brain, he's going to have, heaven forbid, It's going to cause serious damage to the brain and other organs. We have to constantly have oxygen coming into our system, and the blood takes it from the lungs and sends it to every part of the body, and it gives life to every single organ in the body. Then there is warmth. Every person has fire in them, the element of fire. What's a comfortable temperature outside, like today? What's the temperature today? 68? Something like that. That's comfortable. What about 88? Is that comfortable? No. What about 98? You like 88, yeah. So you go to the beach. 98. How about 98? 98. Hot. Come on. How about 99? 98.6 is normal body temperature. Where does it come from? And you know, people who do mining, when they dig down into the earth, guess what? They have to have a lot of water pumping into the mine, because the deeper they go, the hotter it gets. The center of the earth is very, very hot. We don't understand why. How come it doesn't cool off after all these years? What generates the heat in the center of the earth? But we have fire and water and air, and there's a fourth element in every single one of us. What is it?
Hashem.
No, Hashem's not an element.
Earth.
Earth. We're made out of earth. Hashem took the earth from the four corners of the world, and he molded it together, and he made it a human being. So that wherever a person dies, the earth cannot say, I don't want this guy. He was so wicked, I don't want him. Sorry, Mr. Earth, Mother Earth. We say Mother Earth. He's made out of you. It's your kid. Came from you. So these are the four elements, and they affect the way you behave. When they operate through your selfish soul, they affect the doings of the selfish soul. And when they operate through the godly soul, they affect the godly soul. So very quickly, turn on the page 48. This is an eye-opener for people who never thought about it. The fire in your selfish soul, what does it cause you? Anger. And arrogance, pride. A haughty person. That's a fire. Has a fiery soul. Watch out for him. He looks cool, but he's fire. That cool demeanor is just an appearance. Underneath, Jan Cassio has a lean and hungry look. I trust him not, Brutus. Okay, fire. Water. When a person wants to have a good time on a physical level, where does he go? To the beach. To the expensive hotels by the beach. And there, you know, the famous story, the secretary who bought a plane ticket to Miami and found her true love on the beach and so on. Same old story. And 700 years ago, they called it pleasure gardens. The rich people cultivated gardens, gardens of love. Water. What's a melon without water? Watermelon. Water is the source of pleasure. If there's no water in the watermelon, it's dry. Who wants it? Stale. Water is the source of pleasure. All the pleasures in the world have moisture. People are young, full of moisture. They get old, they're dried up. Yeah. You know, Okay, then there's air. You say air is the fourth element in the animal soul. Air is bragging, slandering, gossiping, chattering nonsense, scoffing, making fun of other people, disrespect. All the element of air. Shattering nonsense. Shut up already. And then there's earth. What is earth in your animal soul? Oh, I'm so tired. Just couldn't get up. Could you get me something? I'm too tired. And what are you down in the dumps today? I don't know. Sadness, melancholy. Elements of earth in the animal soul. So these are the four elements working through our animal soul. And we have class tomorrow?
Yes.
So tomorrow we'll look at the other side, which is how these four elements work through the godly soul. And you can think about it yourself in the meantime. Try and figure it out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
What's today? Monday.
Yes.
Yeah. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No blessing after the coffee because we didn't have the coffee.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. It's like Shabbos, you know. The taste in the food on Shabbos depends on the people who come to eat it. They put the good taste in the food. So similarly, students, it's a famous saying, you'll hear it when you get married. One of the great sages said, I learned a lot from my teachers. I learned more from my friends and colleagues. But most of all, I learned from my students.
Thank you.
Thank you. I met his granddaughter.
You did? How?
I have a friend that they did art here, and I was like, yeah, I know how they are. Let's send his grandfather. Oh, my grandfather teaches there. He's like, hey, do you know him? And I'm like, yeah, I know him. So funny. It's so cute. Need to go around with the rest of the kids.
Yes. But I think we have to.
We're going to that 3 minutes.
Yeah.